Now, did it's just a coincidence that BlackRock bought 70% of this show?
I'm not saying because,
And
if that would be a
and
conspiracy theory.
Dominion.
We
And you
did
just
pay,
so happen to get fired the same
just happened to
week?
get fired the same week. Me, Don Lemon, and Tucker. So I don't know what's going on, but
Man,
there's a shakeup. There's a shakeup at the highest level.
You're hanging out in the House of Sunny podcast, where it's always sunny, mostly because of your host, comedian and YouTuber, Sunny Lohman. Want to know what Sunny and her friends are thinking about this week? Well, here she is, Sunny Lohman.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the House of Sunny podcast. I'm here once again with Doug from The Rational Capitalist. And we have some big news. This is our last show.
Oh, I thought we were getting married.
Right. That would be like even bigger news.
It's like the farewell episode where we finally get married.
Honeymoon. Yeah, it's like it is.
Ross
it's
and
like
Rachel.
what is you're right. I was just thinking of Moonlighting with where they fight for 6 years and then
Exactly.
go get married. And then the show has to end because the chemistry's gone.
Yeah, because now we're just we're like a bitter married couple who just don't want to talk to each other anymore.
Right. We're done. We reached that without getting married. We're done. We've had it. It has been almost 6 years. So I received this letter. Dear Sunny, thank you for the almost 6 years of service to House of Sunny podcast. We're proud of the show we made together, but at this time, management has decided to go in another direction. Effective immediately. Thank you again, and good luck to you. Kind regards, Sunny. So there you have it, you guys. Tucker's not the only one who was fired this week.
Now, it's just a coincidence that BlackRock bought 70% of this show?
I'm not saying because,
And
that would be a conspiracy
and
theory.
Dominion.
We
and
did
you just
pay,
so happen to get fired the same
just
week?
happened to get fired the same week. Me, Don Lemon, and Tucker. So I don't know what's going on, but
Man,
there's a shakeup. There's a shakeup at the highest level.
You're part of the purge.
So we had our first episode November of 2017.
Whoa.
Yeah. And so just by way of explanation, I've really been struggling with this decision because there's so many different things I want to do. I love the podcast. It's kind of easy for me to do it. And I thought, well, but to really, I've been really sick, especially the last 2 years, I'd say. It's been up and down for me for the entire time we've been doing this podcast, but I had several hospitalizations over the last 2 years, and it just has been really difficult to keep going with it. The fact, trying to do a regular schedule, whatever. And now that I'm better, it's like, well, okay, is it time to double down? And now I got to kind of recommit, get a producer, do the technical stuff, get the Patreon back up, or, the Subscribe Star, like get locals going. Like, you got to do all this back end shit. You got to make sure you're going to do marketing and stuff because we have never marketed this show. And if we're going to put time into it, we should. And we should, we already had 500 to 1,000 listeners every week without marketing it, which is great. But we have to move it to the next level. And Doug's been really focused on local stuff. And he's been kind of like, I don't really want to do it anymore. And I thought, well, I can turn it into an interview show. But that takes real regularity. That takes health. Every week I got to be on at that certain time that I made that appointment with that stranger. I would love to do that because I would love to meet people that I admire. But I don't anyway, the point is that it would be a full-time job or a part-time job at least. It would be everything I did to get this thing off the ground.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've been really like, oh, do I want to do that? Do I want to do comedy videos? Like all the things that I used to do, writing, like all this stuff. I have all these a million things that I want to do. And over the weekend, I was playing for my daughter, and I haven't ever played for her. I was playing some of my old comedy videos to her. And I'm like, what the hell am I doing? Like, of course I should be doing this. The
Mhm.
podcast was always this thing I could do while I was sick, because I couldn't do the comedy videos sick. And I'm better now. So like, what do I want to do? I think I want to do this, but I don't. Like, I'd rather put energy into something where I feel like I have a unique talent and can do something to make a difference. I think the whole reason to do this podcast, and anything really, you want to make a difference in politics and in the world and in culture. And I don't just want to decide, well, what would make the most impact? I have to also enjoy it. But I do enjoy the comedy. And I think that has the most impact as well. So that's kind of where I suddenly made the decision, like, okay, what am I doing? Of course I should do the comedy. Like, of course I should,
Yeah, I agree.
I was funny. It was funny.
It was good. Yeah. I look at some of those sometimes too, and
They're
it's
still
kind of
funny.
a shame. Yeah. It's a shame that, it didn't continue. And so great. I think that's great. This was kind of a placeholder.
It
and kind of
was
just
for
keep
6
things
years,
going.
unfortunately, but
Mhm.
I had to have, it was so important to me to do something. It meant a lot to me, actually, to have all of you listeners tune into me every week and hear Doug and I chat about politics. Like, it meant a lot to me. It made me feel like I was still in the world, even though sometimes, that was the only thing I did all week. And the rest of the week I was in bed. Sometimes it was like that. Or the only other thing I did was, be a parent, which is important. But when you're like me and you care about the world and you care about politics, I don't know. It was just really hard for me not to do anything. So it mattered to me. It made me feel like a person. Does that make sense? It made me feel important and useful more than just to my immediate family. And
Yeah.
that really gave me joy and fueled me in very dark, dark times, when you're really sick. So thanks to everybody for tuning in all these years.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, doing a podcast is, to do it right is very, it's a business, and it's expensive to run it if you do it right, and to market it and do all those things. And you either have to be all in or not. It has to be, this is your thing, this is what you want to do, or not. And that's kind of where it's at right now. So, I've had a lot of fun doing it over the years. It's been a great outlet, I think, for both of us.
Yeah.
As I used to write a ton, and I was like a prolific blogger at one time between about 2006 and maybe 2018 or 19. And then as family and business and things took precedent over that, this was
It was nice to have this, right?
Nice to have
Because
something.
you felt it was a way of, I think I'm a writer too. You're a writer kind of by nature. And when you're like that, you want an outlet to tell what's in your brain, to, all this analysis that you do, you want to get it out. And that's what this podcast is and has been.
Good way to put it.
It's been,
the other thing that changed though too was that Facebook, like there was a time when you could have a blog or a website and people would like go to your website and you had all your links of all the websites you'd visit. And then when socials started to aggregate all those content people, either you could be on Facebook or you could be on Twitter, and then you had the 140 character thing, or you had a Facebook, and then Facebook, all the shadow banning and all that stuff like totally killed the right. And then it got dispersed. And then it's like, well, what do you do now if you're a writer? Like, and you just have ideas and you want to put your blog, no one's going to really read it. You got to be on a big site. And so the whole landscape changed, and
it changed,
like 15
and it keeps
years
changing.
ago, you could build a big audience, and now you can't.
I mean, you can, I think you can, but it's just different now. Like Substack is doing really well, but again, you have to market yourself and bring people to your Substack. And I think it's the same with podcasts. There are so many freaking podcasts out there now that I'm like, we're like a drop in the bucket. And it's not that I don't think that we're good and we could. I believe in us. And I thought, well, if we really wanted to like do it, we could have a great show. There are shows out there that suck that are doing way better than ours because we don't market and we don't, so I don't know. It's just a matter of motivation and energy and time. So I do feel like I'm
too.
Yeah, and I feel like I'm in a moment where I could have chosen that. And so I've been like, oh, do I do it? Don't I do it? What do I do? And I just really think, given that there's so many podcasts, I would rather do something different. And that, it's funny because in 2010, when I started making videos, that's exactly why I started making comedy videos in the first place. I'm like, this is something no one else is doing. And at the time, God, the only other person making comedy videos was Crowder. So it was like me and Crowder.
Yeah.
And now there's more, but still it's still a rare thing.
Because it's hard to do. Like anyone can anyone can sit here and talk like we are right now. It's very hard to actually have a concept and then produce it and like make a really good video with good timing and editing. And it's a real art form to do it. And not many people do it well. There's a lot of people out there. I mean, when you think about the right-wing universe of content now, it's so different and it's so much better. Yeah. There's so much great stuff out there now, but yeah, it's still really hard, and there's very few people who do it well. And so you have a niche there if you can do it. Whereas podcasting, you don't. Like, to me, like the podcasting thing, in a lot of ways, other than the big national podcasts, like I'm going to probably be doing a local podcast for my area that's going to be political or cultural here, and that's great. That's a perfect thing because you can have your hundreds or thousands of people in your area watch you and make a real impact. Whereas when you're trying to do something sort of like nationally, who are we competing against? Tucker Carlson, or Adam Carolla or Joe Rogan or someone who's got millions of subscribers. So the landscape has changed a little bit.
Right. Yeah, it has. And when we started our podcast in 2017, that was unique. So it was like,
for sure.
We just, the reason
why. What's a podcast? What?
Yeah, that's exactly what people would say to me. So yeah, I think we've done well. And I just wanted to, I'm going to share my screen now. And what I want to do is go look at the list of podcasts that we did because we rock, dude. Like some of the issues we covered, and we covered them early. And we were really, I hate to use these Obama words, but we were on the right side of history over and over and over again. I mean, as early as 2017, we were discussing, if you look at this in number 11, media bias, social media bias. Wow. And then we were talking about Trump. And I remember saying about Trump really early. So this is like we were talking about him and saying, forget his style. He's doing good things. I believe that was correct. Let's see. Just going to scroll through here. We did a couple of history shows that are still good. And actually they are some of our most popular ones, when Alex would come on the show and talk about the Second Amendment or talk about Thanksgiving, social media. Okay. We early were saying tech is fascist. There's something screwed up about this. Like there are all these red flags. The tech is totally fascist. And we were saying that in 2018. Mm-hmm. So all these Twitter files that come out and people go, oh my God, what? Like it cracks me up because I could see it. It was so obvious. I think any smart person, if you really didn't see it, you were intentionally ignoring it. Don't you? I have a hard 100%. Time thinking that you could see what was going on. That, especially like when Alex Jones was deplatformed suddenly by all the firms. Mm-hmm. When you see this mass deplatforming by everybody at once, that to me was a huge sign that this was coordinated somewhere else. And there were I'll never forget reading an article in 2015 in Wired magazine about Zuckerberg and him saying how he was under so much pressure from big media to censor and sort of stick to a narrative on Facebook, and that he'd been pushing against it, but was sort of, starting to kind of, that whole thing was crumbling. And then they used Trump to really solidify it as well. This guy is just, it's the Sam, what's his last name argument. He's beyond the pale. Like Trump is this alien from outer space that we have to just set aside all the rules and deal with it.
Yeah. And you could see that convergence happening when Trump came in, because you knew that like the left are fascists waiting to fascist, they're waiting for an excuse, a reason, and you could start to see the infrastructure in place to do it. And, we were still very early on getting these are private companies, they can do what they want argument. And then you could start to see that, wait a second, this is really, really getting bad. And then you started to see this meld with the ideology, and the ideology from the left was free speech is not a value. Like that was what the left was actually saying, is that we need to disproportionately censor the right because they're evil and and this is different. Like this is not just an argument like these are really bad. These conservatives are evil people that need to be silenced and suppressed. And so you started to have that ideology. And once you have that ideology coupled with the means to do it, suddenly you start wondering, well, what wouldn't they do if that's really what you believe? That conservatives are effectively Nazis that need to be silenced and suppressed and exterminated, as some on the left have said. Like, what wouldn't they do? Like, what would the FBI like set up its own portal within Twitter and, like really put serious backdoor pressure? Like if we would have suggested that any of this stuff was even possible, we would have been laughed at, although we did. And we were like,
I think we did.
It's only a matter of time before, like, it was sort of like de facto censorship. And then it was like, wait a second, there are actual government agents, in these things.
I know I explicitly said that, and as far back as 5-6 years ago, I was saying, when you see what some of these congressmen are saying, Mark Zuckerberg needs to do more, needs to silence these people, and Twitter silence these, like they're overtly saying you need to silence Americans, and that kind of pressure from Washington in like a public statement. What are they doing behind the scenes? I thought it's like if you see somebody kind of smacking their kid in public, behind the scenes it's worse.
Or telling you, I think it's okay to beat your kids.
Yeah.
They tell you that. But okay, like, do you really, at some point it's like, okay, once you accept that free speech is not a value anymore, and you're overtly saying you need to silence people, and then you're also saying that these people are evil, like at some point, like connect the dots. Like what are these people going to do behind closed doors? And you
also see mass deplatformings and banks and everybody, like a whole bunch of different regulated businesses getting in on it at the same time. How stupid do you have to be? Like that's everything but the smoking gun.
And this is what was so disappointing.
That's the OJ trial. It's like,
well,
we don't have a smoking gun, so it's not happening.
And that was what was so disappointing, I think, for us personally over the last 5 years, was seeing this division even on our side, with people who don't understand the power of philosophy and the power of culture and the power of these ideologies, where we're sitting here saying, analyze what they're saying and like what they believe. Start with that. They actually don't believe in free speech. They actually believe you should suppress their opposition. And this is what the left has done, since its inception. So like, take that seriously and believe they're going to do it. And our side was saying, oh, no, these are private companies, whatever. They're like making these legalistic arguments. And even on a legal grounds, I think we could argue against it because of all the stuff with like terms of service and fraud and things like that. But just from like a moral and value perspective, that was really the big issue. And now we see it sweeping. And if you talk to a college student today or a younger person today, they will explicitly tell you like a vast percentage of college kids literally do not believe in the value of free speech. Like they would overturn the First Amendment, I think, if they could. I mean, that's what they've been indoctrinated to believe. That is the philosophy of the universities and the left and the postmodernists.
Right. And so the fact that it's actually happening, I mean, and the worst part, it was difficult, and it did start around 2016, just before we did our podcast, but like really those early days of our podcast because I'm seeing here, like, 5 years ago, we did an episode, Why Congress is Right to Question Zuckerberg. So we're saying, like, there are a lot of people in the liberty movement saying, oh, Congress is hauling a private business in front of them to, it's intimidating and it's anti-business and so on. And we're like, whoa. Somebody's got to look into what's going on, because something is happening and it is not just innocent freaking business. And the next week, we interviewed the CEO of the Ayn Rand Institute, Tal Tesfani. I hope I'm saying his name right. Maybe not. And even at that time, I was starting to like feel icky about ARI. Now I'm like, I wouldn't have anyone from there on my podcast. I mean, I guess I would, to mock them and attack them. But, I wouldn't have an honest freaking interview with them. I would have an honest interview with them. I wouldn't let them come on and fucking fake it and lie about what they're doing and who they are. And so that has changed. I have learned a lot. I don't, and we'll get to it. We'll get to the whole when COVID started, but here I have, like, after talking about interviewing Tal, 3 episodes later, we talk about American immigration. And you and I have always been on this, like, it should be limited and organized, and it should be merit-based. Like it shouldn't just be this free for all and no border. Tommy Robinson is arrested. Roseanne is canceled. Like, all of these things are happening. This is 4 years ago. Trump's president.
The left really thinks you're Nazis.
The left really thinks you're Nazis. And what about kids at the border? Yeah, the whole, the kids are being tortured. They'll do, the thing I've learned about the left over the last, like, really, really deeply, I understand this now. They don't mean anything they say. Everything they say, the kids, the children, this poor trans person, they don't give a shit. It's all designed to crush you. Everything is designed to crush you. That's it. And so anything they say has to go, you should put through that filter of, they're just trying to crush me. They don't mean it. I'm not even going to accept that they mean it.
And they're trying to increase their power.
100%. It's all about increasing their power. They don't really care. Like this whole thing about, we're genociding trans people because we don't want them in our bathrooms, like, right. So they want extra rights. I don't want to give them extra rights. And so that's now a genocide. I mean, it's all this like hyperbole and gaslighting and like this extreme stuff that this torrent of activism to make you feel like you're alone in this idea too. Mm-hmm. They're just bullies and punks. And so anything out of them, like, I now just see the face of the bully on the playground going, oh yeah, like, what are you, like, I think that one time I almost got beat up. The girl was like, how come you're saying shit about my mom? I'm like, I don't know you and I don't know your mom, never met this girl in my life. And a dozen times, why are you saying that about my mom? Why'd you say that about my mom? Like, she was just plucking something out of thin air.
There are 4 lights. There are 4 lights.
100%. Just to, I don't know, is it justifying it in her own mind to punch me? Or is she building herself up? Or what is she doing with that? But whatever it was it's a bully tactic. So
yeah, you decide what you want to do emotionally, and then you come up with a rationalization later.
Right.
And that's kind of like an imminent, very violent way to describe it. But also the farce that the left was ever advocates of free speech. Remember, that was kind of like the narrative when we were younger was, oh, the left is about free speech and civil
Right.
liberties, and the right is against that. Therefore, a police state, and they want to censor people and everything else. And what a joke that is, huh? I mean, the whole society is flipped now. And it's because the left gained power.
I mean,
the left wanted free speech when they wanted the ability to impose their ideas on society. Now that they're in power, they want to cancel everybody and exterminate their opposition.
And now, like when I was young and I was brainwashed to think that somebody trying to put a rating on a record was bad. As a mom, I see that now and I go, no, that's right. Like we need to know what we're getting. And the thing is that kids, once exposed, it's done. It's over. And so you don't want to have to walk the earth. Like I can't watch every show she's going to be exposed to. The ratings make a huge difference to me. Mm-hmm. If it's R, it's a flat out no. And it's nice to have that. And there are really, garbage in, garbage out. As I'm older, I have a much bigger appreciation for what exposure to things and different people actually can do to your psychology as you're not just, just even as an adult, let alone as a child with no context. You get desensitized to certain things. They 100% are sexualizing little girls right now on every show, even the ones you think are innocent, even the ones rated, I don't know, 7+. The girls are like, dressed like whores and shaking their booties. And it's just like, what? Scooby-Doo back in the day was the gang solves a crime. It ends the same way every time. That's it. Like they're just kind of nice to each other. They help each other. They always solve it. Thelma's the smart one, whatever, right? Shaggy and Scooby are always eating. That's it. Today, Daphne has a problem with Greg and oh my God, like he hasn't texted her in like 3 days and and you're going, excuse me? What the hell is this?
Mm-hmm.
They've changed all like these wholesome things that you just, okay, you can watch that. You can't even do that anymore. And I can imagine that, all those conservative people who want to raise their kids in a wholesome environment, they want control over what their kids are exposed to a degree that is reasonable. It's not unreasonable to like say, I want to go in a store and when I'm looking at these video games, I want to know which ones have swear words, sex, violence. Like I want to know.
I remember in the 80s and 90s remember Al Gore's wife, Tipper Gore, she was
That's exactly what I was thinking of.
Like at that time, the right was characterized or not even the right, it was like the Tipper Gore and a lot of right-wing people were involved in that. They were characterized as fuddy-duddies.
Yeah.
And that idea of wanting to rate things was then conflated with a form of censorship rather than, no, it's reasonable to like have ratings and stuff like that.
It's reasonable to have ratings like so people know what they're getting. It's like informed consent because otherwise you're bombarded with shit you didn't consent to.
Exactly. And that was like a nuance. What you're saying, it was a nuance. And as a young person looking at that, I was sort of against it.
I was totally against it.
Because I was like, oh, these fuddy-duddies.
Who are they?
Who
are they to get involved and say what a business can?
Man. Yeah.
Right.
And like there was no context or nuance. Free markets, and free speech. And so we saw that as a form of, and the left characterized that as a form of censorship.
That's
and really what they were doing was they didn't care about censorship. They cared about the moral, like breaking down a moral standard. That's
and
what
by the way, it worked. I mean, just reflecting on my own ideas and how they've evolved, especially since having a child. I had somewhat, you have those boomer parents that went through the 60s or whatever, and they have this like weird open idea about sex. And so as a kid, you're just exposed to like, I saw rated R movies when I was 6, 7 years old. And, I ended up having a very confused and kind of, I just remember being explicitly very confused about sex and how that's supposed to work, like emotionally for me. You know what I mean?
Well, you're not at an
And
age to even think about it.
and I remember getting into high school and there were girls like, there were very loose girls there, and girls who weren't loose were called goody goodies. And of course, 17, 18-year-old boys will just about, like, they're just on board with whatever.
That's our job. That was our job.
It's your job at that age. And then all the girls are just totally confused. They're totally sexually confused at that time because of all the stuff they've been exposed to, the desensitization. There's no taboos. And
you end up with a lot of single mothers.
You end up, well, I mean, or what ends up happening, I think, is you get this feminist kind of sex is just 100% about the pleasure of the moment, and it's not really important. And you take your birth control pills, and you pick mates that aren't really about husband or father material. You pick mates based on, am I enjoying hanging out with them?
Just whim, sexual gratification.
It's totally wrong.
Because that's what empowers you, is the ability to make these decisions like emotionally and on a whim, rather than have a broader philosophy about who am I going to sleep with or who I'm going to date or whatever.
And I'm talking about every girl I knew. And like, if I had a friend who at 16, 17, she used to get Bridal magazine, and she used to like flip through it and fantasize about being a bride. And I had so much contempt for that. I looked down on that like, you're not actualized, you're not going to be fulfilled, you're going to just be some stupid wife. Like I just, like, my ideas were so backwards, and I didn't know a single girl that didn't share that, except like that girl, like there's one. And all of that comes from this loose garbage in, garbage out, nothing matters. She was the rebel. She was. And what's really sad is she ended up being the single mom, which is just weird, but she's a good person.
But you had all this pressure coming from the culture and from your family and education, saying this whole idea of being a mom and a parent and having a family, that's all fuddy-duddy.
It's fuddy-duddy. It's not sacred. Stuff. There's nothing valuable about it. I barely, under the gun, had a child. I barely made it because I had those ideas and I focused on my career, and I was picking guys incorrectly for this idea of just, well, do they make me feel good? Do I feel like I'm in love? And do I feel like I enjoy my day-to-day with them or whatever? And I'm not thinking. And at some point in my early 30s, that kind of changed, where I started saying, I think I need to like actually get someone who's like good husband, father material. And if I want to have kids,
nice to have been taught that at a younger age. I was
not taught that. I had to sort of discover that. Nobody taught me that.
So backwards.
And I'm in like this family where everyone's divorced but my grandparents, like multiple times, multiple wives and husbands across my parents and my aunts and uncles. Like, just so marriage, kids, sex, like none of that is serious. It's all just whim worshipy soup. And most of my friends were in the same culture, So that is what they did to us. And I, like with my own child, I don't want her to think of it as I want to pass on to her the lessons that I learned in my 30s, that children are a fucking gift. And without
use the word sacred. I think that's an important word, because it gets at the deeper, it's on the spiritual level. It's like the sacred concept is like a deep value, and it's primal, it's evolution, it's biological, it's emotional. Like we are sort of made for that.
Yeah.
And to deny that is a total denial of reality.
Yeah. Oh, and interestingly enough, look at this episode 38, 4 years ago, how feminism has ruined women's lives. And then episode 39, the silencing of Alex Jones and InfoWars. And I am personally proud that I was one of the only people, you included, but I mean, very few people stood up and defended Alex Jones at that time.
Right.
Shame on them.
Rather than like the Voltaire quote, like, I may not agree with what you say, but I'll die for your right to defend it. Like, where were those people?
Watching him get crushed, it was so unfair.
And it was so pragmatic too. Like the people on the right who were like, oh, I don't like Alex Jones, so I don't care if they kick him off.
I
like,
couldn't
what?
believe how many people said shit like that. Well, but he's a jerk. And look what he said about Sandy Hook. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
And it's not just about him. All of those people, he had a huge fan base. Those people wanted to listen to him. Who are you to say that they aren't allowed?
Yeah, it's like the government banning, the Nazis banning the Jews, and you're like, well, I never went to that drugstore anyways, so I don't care if they closed down that Jewish guy's drugstore and hauled him away, whatever.
Episode 41, 4 years ago, freedom of speech is an American value. And I remember that episode, we were making the point that it's not a legal thing. Because everybody was saying, oh, well, it's a private company. They can do what they want. And we're like, fucking, what are you talking about? This isn't about, this is how they've gotten away with it too, because they have run around the First Amendment. I mean, actually they have violated it because they put their minions inside and had their little portals and shit like that.
Yeah,
but at the time we didn't know any of that. Although you could suspect that there was something more going on, pressure behind the scenes. It was pretty clear to me that there was. And yet the people were not standing up and going, no, Facebook, you don't get to censor American speech. This is we're Americans. Fuck you.
Well, yeah, and it's a public platform. It wasn't like a newspaper op-ed page.
And I remember when Google was facing like Germany or something had laws and they wanted Google to like censor their search. And it was a huge scandal. And there was this big pushback against Google for even thinking about doing that.
Mm-hmm.
And fast forward a decade and all of a sudden it's like we're normalizing this.
Mm-hmm.
And then we were saying stuff like, look, if you allow this, the next step is government censorship. It doesn't just come out of the blue. It comes from, well, you've been allowing it and you've been okay with it for 5 years. So now we're just going to codify it. That's how that works. And we were saying that 4 years ago. We're pretty awesome.
Yeah, the Kavanaugh stuff was great.
Kavanaugh stuff.
What a hysteria. Just a...
Let's see. The end of real debate in America. Tech company banning. The caravans. The left is religious and it's serious. 4 years ago, we were talking about the left as a religion.
And this gets to like Tucker's speech that he made over the weekend. Hopefully a lot of people saw it, where he was, and we've said this many times, but the idea that in the point that he was driving home was in the old days, if the left and the right sort of both agreed on the end goal, which was, hey, we all want a prosperous society, we all want to live well, but we think we need more government regulation, and the right thinks we need laissez-faire. Well, as Tucker said, we could both bring our academic papers and we could argue about that, but at the end of the day, we're still about the same goal, which is a good society and a happy, prosperous society. That all changed, where they're no longer about a different means to get to prosperity. They're literally about destroying standards. And that's the postmodernist ethos. And so once you get to the point of saying free speech hurts me, if you talk, Sonny, if you say words to me, I'm not going to debate you. You're being offensive to me because of the type of person you are. Your words actually are a form of violence.
Yes.
At that point, there's nothing to do. There's no argument. There's no possibility of debate. And then you are now a religious person, whether you accept God or not, that's irrelevant. The epistemology is religious because you're saying, I'm asserting something and I just believe it's true because I want to believe it's true, not because I can prove it or I can reference something in reality. So you are now, so the left became religious. They just became a cult, essentially, that asserts itself and asserts its own power, like ISIS. I mean, what's the difference between ISIS saying, okay, we have a 6th century text that tells us we should chop people's heads off. And if you try and argue with us, that's just more
that way.
That's more evidence that we need to chop your head off if you disagree with us.
My daughter,
the
left is religious. They are the most religious in their policies. Like Christians are religious, but you don't see them like you're not seeing handouts coming home from Christians that say, why is God great? And why should you get on your fucking knees for God? You know, I don't see those handouts coming home from my daughter's school. What I see is it was just Earth Day and she comes home with this packet that she's supposed to fill out with stuff like with totally leading questions that assume the premise that the earth is God, literally, and that we should do its bidding and save it and care for it. And why is it important to recycle? Why is it important to turn the lights off? What can you do today to support the earth? Like, that all the questions were like that, 100%, assuming already that it's a value.
Yeah,
we're just going to pre-accept this value.
Why should you worship? How can you worship God better?
Yeah, right. What are you going to do
bring
today?
Jesus Christ more into your life?
What are you going to do today to honor Jesus Christ? Can you imagine the minds exploding? The leftist minds exploding if their kids came home with those worksheets.
Right.
And it is just pure religion. There's no debate. There's no discussion. It's pure indoctrination of premises accepted that the earth is God. And we are damaging it by our existence.
Yeah, that's our original sin.
So, yeah. I mean, it's funny because it is treated like an original sin. White people are treated like original sinners. All the tenets of what makes something a religion are there. The rituals of recycling that do nothing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. 3 years ago, how to defeat tech censorship without losing our freedom. So are all the people going, oh, you can't do anything about private companies because private companies have to be free to censor Americans. And we're like, wait a sec, that's not right. There we're making like a legal argument. We were making the legal points.
Like, not only is it a value, but even in the context of a pure legalistic argument, we were saying
in a free market system.
In a free market system with terms of service and contracts, and fraud and the liability shield and the
I loved this episode.
FCC.
I loved this episode because I feel like we really made a good case for legally why what they were doing was fraud and breach of contract. All right. We criticized some objectivists. I got this one, episode 65, takedown of Yaron Brook. He's the CEO of the Ayn Rand Institute, anti-American immigration position. First of all, I love my title because it is anti-American. And I, at that point, I had decided in my brain, I'm just going to start calling all these people anti-American because it's true. If you don't believe in our border, what the hell are you? Like, you're against the nation. So I did this episode and I think we had some guests on there. We had Ed Mazlichan and like some other people to talk about his position. And immediately I lost half my friends on Facebook. I think I had like 1,500 friends, which is too many anyway, but immediately was unfriended by a huge, like 300-400 people, bunch of fucking toadies. I'm like, goodbye.
How dare you?
Goodbye.
How dare you claim that America is a sovereign country with a border? That
how dare you?
There should be a process
that's not even it. How dare you disagree with Yaron Brook?
Oh yeah,
because
yeah.
that's all it is.
I'm giving them too much credit.
Because prior to this is one thing I realized over the last 5 years is that objectivists, there were a number of objectivists that were not independent thinkers. And I didn't know this because, first of all, their philosophy says they're supposed to be. So there was that. And then Leonard Peikoff, who used to be kind of the intellectual leader of that movement, I think just was a decent thinker about current issues and stuff. So I would say I agreed with him, like 90% of the time. He was just a very good thinker. And so that made me think I'm in alignment with most objectivists, because most objectivists agreed with him and with me. And then as soon as Peikoff retires and these other like bad thinking leftist yahoos got, for whatever reason, intellectual head badge of objectivism, that's when everything started splitting for me. And I saw a huge number of people just go with Yaron Brook, like, well, whatever he says is got to be true.
He's the guru.
He's the new guru. And literally everything he says, not, oh, I'm thinking myself and I just agree with him about immigration. It's like, no, I agree with him about immigration, Trump, tech, trans, like minutia, little things, everything.
Mm-hmm.
Now you know you're in a freaking cult, dorks. We did it. Let's see here. What else do we have? Oh, we debunked the 1619 History Project with
that was a good Alex Marriott.
That was a good Alex Marriott episode. Our resident historian. Democrats use children and act like them too. It's a good episode. Free speechers versus everyone else. The new divide. 3 years ago, we were saying that stuff, dude.
And I had someone come up to me, an actual elected office holder come up to me. He was a younger guy who's gotten elected to assembly position. And I just happened to be talking to someone this last weekend at an event, and he goes, free speech is the most important thing right now.
Yeah.
And he said, and he was specifically referring to his generation, because this guy's in his 20s and he got elected to office, which is awesome, by the way. But what he was saying is, because, I'm not in my 20s, I'm a little older than 20s, but he was saying, and he could speak to this, that you have no idea, he was sort of saying to me, the people that are coming out of university and the younger kids, they literally do not value free speech. Like if you took a poll, a lot of them would overturn the First Amendment. Like this is really scary. And he's like, if we don't have free speech, we have nothing. We're done. Like there's nothing else matters, because you can't debate, you can't think freely. What does it matter? And so that is like the hill to die on, is free speech.
One and two, because without two, we don't have one. I really believe that.
Mm-hmm.
And, but they're trying to get at our free speech with end runarounds, like with social credit stuff. So I think those are hills to die on, in the sense that if we give them digital currency, we lose free speech. Yeah.
Did you ever, and we've said this a million times, did you ever think like the left is going to come out and say, hey, tomorrow there's no more free speech. Tomorrow we control your life and we control what you spend money on, and we're going to lock you in your home. That's happening tomorrow. Is everyone okay with that? I mean, they're not going to do it. It's not how it works.
Right. Because they know that they couldn't get away with it if they did it although with COVID, they came close, right?
It's like, no, there's right-wing people on Twitter that are influencing people. Why don't we have an FBI guy go down there and say, this is a national security issue. You better shut down this account, or it's an issue of national security because they're spreading disinformation. Oh, okay. I got it. So that's
yeah, the Soviets never did anything
more clever
like
than
that. The Soviets never did anything like that. Like, that's misinformation. That's enemy of the state. We got to close that down. That's harmful to the group. Hey, episode 77. Are some ideas just too odious to discuss?
I don't remember that one.
And my little subheading here is no taboo topics. I believe that 100%. I would talk about anything. And I think this idea that you can't platform a white supremacist, or you can't platform, who cares? Why can't we all just fucking talk?
Yeah, if you disagree with them, just make a better argument.
Can I have them on to make fun of them? Can I, am I allowed? It's so stupid. It's so un-American. I just remember growing up and how easy and free it was and how much like I got to say. I just got to speak my mind. And it's just different these days, like especially with humor. Speaking of jokes, this is a side note, and it kind of goes to how advanced kids are today. But my daughter is sheltered. I admit it. She is freaking sheltered. I shelter her. She does not watch TV, willy-nilly. We watched My Fair Lady over the weekend, the old classic My Fair Lady, and I felt that was a little bit too.
Come on.
I was watching it and I'm like, well, I've never seen it
pornography.
Before. Not exactly, but
My Fair Lady.
But I don't know if you know how it ends, but I had never seen it before. And it's a story of a dude. He's like this kind of jerk. I mean, he's a super chauvinist and just rude and prickly, really to everybody, but especially to Eliza. He treats her like the scum of the earth because she's low class. But he takes her on. He's going to educate her and to win a bet and to show how great he is at, how great a language person he is. And he's going to prove his theory that language is everything in England, that if you can speak well, you can be at the top and everybody will embrace you. So he achieves this with her, but he continues to just treat her like dirt. And so she leaves. She's like, well, F you. And he's kind of miserable, but he can't really say it because he's like a really uptight dude. And he continues to be kind of cruel to her. So she just comes back. That's how it ends.
Okay.
That is how it ends. And you're just like, oh, all right. That's not a good lesson, actually.
Just go back to your abuser when all else fails.
But this is the kind of stuff we watch. Like, I'm careful. So she goes to school and my daughter likes to make up jokes, and she made up some joke and the punchline had the word cock in it. And in her mind, it's chicken.
Oh boy.
It's like male chicken, cock-a-doodle-doo. She does not know, has never heard of, never been exposed to the slang term.
Oh boy.
Poor thing. So she does this at school, and two of her friends, and by the way, these kids are 8 years old. Little tiny girls.
To be fair, they just come back from a drag show.
Two of her friends go, oh, you can't say that word. It's a bad word. And she's like, is it, Mom? She's like, what is it?
Oh,
no.
I
didn't know it was a bad word. What is it?
No.
I have to tell her, yes, it's okay. It means penis. And anyway, but how do those girls know the word cock?
Yeah, good point.
How do 2 8-year-olds girls know the word cock? That is not exactly a common swear word.
Yeah. I don't want to dig too far into that one.
Right? Anyway, how to crush accusations of racism. It's America today. 8-year-old girls know the word cock. I did not know that word at 8, and I grew up in a bad neighborhood.
Yeah.
So then we have COVID coming
I love the implication that bad neighborhoods, about cocks early.
Let me tell you, a lot of stuff earlier. Well,
all about cocks in the bad neighborhoods.
You end up intermixing with a lot of streety kids who just know more stuff. I mean, they have like shittier parents or absent parents, and they're definitely
grow up a little faster.
A lot more abuse, a lot more physical, probably sex. I don't know about sexual. I think that's everywhere. Let's see. What else do we have here? Oh, here we're getting into COVID. And COVID was an interesting thing for you and me because I agreed with 2 weeks. I didn't like it. I didn't want it to be that way. I didn't think it should be that way. I thought the CDC should have their shit together. But what I didn't know, what I learned from COVID was how captured and corrupt the United States government was top to bottom. Like, I still thought the CDC had some doctors there that were still caring about actual health concerns, that their job was to be watching for these types of things and alerting the public and gathering data and tracking things. Like I still believed that that was the mission of the CDC. I feel really naive, but I learned my lesson.
Well, just to interject for a second, like I know a lot of doctors here. I'm in a physicians group locally, like a medical freedom type group. And if you ask them, they'd say the same thing you just said, which was that pre-COVID, they're doctors and they look to the CDC for this kind of guidance. So did the whole system.
Yeah.
And they were fooled by it just as much as you were.
Yeah.
Like, why wouldn't you be? Like, what evidence do we have of I mean, obviously, if you were really deep into the weeds on this, like Robert Kennedy is, you would know, okay,
Robert Kennedy knew
people are captive agencies.
Right.
But for the normal guy who's never been through something like this, would be like, yeah, the CDC says we got to worry about this.
And I know
really scary stuff.
I know I've said this on subsequent shows. I said I was wrong. I was wrong. The government should never have that power, should never do anything like that. I saw it unfold in real time, that they took that 2 weeks and they turned it into a 3-year nightmare. And, you know, that summer, my governor shut down the beaches and the hiking paths. And, you know, it was insane. When you see the treatments being crushed and silenced, and all these physicians being silenced and censored, it was like, whoa, what have we done? So I admit I was dead wrong about that. I knew that it wasn't an authority or a power that I wanted the government to have. It was clear to me that people were already self-isolating, and I was. So I don't think it was necessary. And somebody said the other day, and I feel like this really puts it plainly. You have the right to risk your own life. You have the right to go outside and sell coffee in the middle of a pandemic if you want to. Nobody should be able to tell you you can't do that. Not for anybody's fucking grandma. So it was wrong. And I thought that the CDC just wanted a couple weeks to kind of get its data set. And there was going to be this flood of people in the hospitals, which never happened. It was just all so much like I still had a little bit of goodwill left in me for the people in health and positions of authority in health. I don't know why, but I did. I shouldn't have. I have enough experience to know that hospitals, doctors, all those people have just become drug pushers for pharma. As a person with an illness, I knew that, but I didn't really know that. Like I didn't like the FDA, but I don't know. The depth and breadth of it shocked me. I gotta admit.
Right. And yeah, I'm with you. You know, and at the time, to be fair, if you're like a normal person who doesn't really know the science, and you just hear about this virus, and remember they were showing pictures of people in Italy, like just mass death and some of the gaslighting that was going on. I mean, you were seeing that, and you were like, holy crap.
People were dropping dead on the street in China. Remember those videos?
Yes. Yeah. You would just drop dead. Like it was like getting, it was like mustard gas or something like that, or like cyanide or something.
It was scary. They made us scared. And I didn't know how much propaganda they controlled. The whole thing was a real eye opener. And the good news is it was for a lot of people. So I feel like, you know, I tend to get black pilled, but there really is a white pill there. All of this craziness is red pilling a lot of people.
Yeah.
So,
well, and by the way, on this score, everyone should go watch Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s speech at Hillsdale College that he just gave. It's a really good speech. And like he really gives the overview, not only of what happened, but the precursors to COVID, the Event 201 stuff where they were simulating this pandemic stuff, and the whole history of Big Pharma and their capture of the FDA and the CDC, how they were able to push through liability shields, which was a gold rush for vaccine companies to get more and more vaccines that are unnecessary onto the schedule for kids, because it's worth like $1 billion every time you do it. And like, man, I wish I would have known that, you know, and how many people are going through these vaccine schedules, giving your baby a Hep B vaccine, and all these other unnecessary.
Well, I have to be honest, I was a little aware of that before.
You were.
Yeah. When I had Lucia, that's when I looked into it. And I just resisted all those early vaccines because I was like, why does she need an STD vaccine on her first day of life? That one didn't make sense to me. So I didn't do it. And then I was able to, because I was immune suppressed myself, there were vaccines that her pediatrician wouldn't give her. So we had and at that time we were in Minnesota, and she had a pediatrician that was like this 70-year-old lady. So totally old school. And,
a lot of clinical experience.
I was able to have this very open and frank discussion with her. And then we moved to California when Lucia was 3 months. And after having this frank and open discussion with this one doctor, we go into this practice here, and I liked her doctor. And we were told full vaccination or you're kicked out of the practice. There was no discussion.
Wow.
And I said to the woman, well, but I'm immune suppressed, so she can't have any live virus vaccines. So what do you recommend? And she's like, it'll be fine. That's what she said. I was like, well, my doctor's not saying that. My doctor's not saying it will be fine. I don't want to get the measles. I've never had the measles. And I'm immune suppressed. If she gets the live measles vaccine, I will get the measles. It's stupid. So anyway, it took there was just a lot more going on with me than with her. So I became aware of the pressure and the bullshit. And then I started looking into it and reading pros and cons and sort of alternative voices, and realized, so she got some,
But this was the culmination, like the COVID thing is a culmination of so many different factors, culturally, scientifically, philosophically, where you've got like a complex scientific problem with a very uneducated and sort of like ignorant public. You've got, remember at that was the last year of Trump. So there was definitely motivation to want to ruin the economy and ruin his presidency. You have these leftist globalists who, basically want to take over the world and have this as an excuse. You had some cover-up stuff going on. Best case scenario, this was gain of function research that was leaked from a lab.
Right.
Best case scenario, it could be worse than that, more diabolical.
It could be a bioweapon. And people are saying that's what Trump was told. And that's why he agreed to actually, that's what the Brownstone Institute with Jeffrey Tucker, they did they put out that as what they believe happened, that he was told it was a bioweapon, that he was against the lockdown, and then was convinced behind the scenes by people who told him it was a bioweapon.
Well, and here's like Dr. Fauci is sitting there. And I thought, oh, well, Trump's got to have a reasonable team. I didn't know anything about who's Dr. Fauci. I wasn't in the weeds on this stuff. Well, this guy goes back to this guy goes
Meanwhile,
way back
people like Kennedy knew who Fauci was.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. They knew who these people were. And then on top of that, you've got this nexus of, pharma, with the FDA and the CDC and how all the payments flow for these vaccines and everything. And when we started seeing, they're really seeming to be against these early treatments, and like, why aren't we connecting all these doctors?
So many red flags.
Yeah, it was
lack of discussion, lack of treatments, lack of this pressure, this propaganda. When they started saying safe and effective, I knew, no, it's not, because nothing is.
That. Right,
nothing is, and you can't know it in this period of time without long-term testing. So it was a bullshit from the beginning. And then 3 years ago, Doug, and you've always been on the right side of history regarding conspiracies, but conspiracy theories are necessary for good thinking is the title of our episode number 89 from 3 years ago. And look how many conspiracies have come true, right? Now everybody, it's like a running gag now that conspiracy theories are the truth.
Well, and I reject the whole idea of a separate class of knowledge called conspiracy theories. Yeah. Like there's theories about what happened.
Right.
When you artificially label something as necessarily bad or fallacious because it's a conspiracy, that's really dangerous, because that means that anytime you assert that, oh no, I think some people were doing some bad stuff over there. Oh, sounds like a conspiracy, so it can't be true. It must be false. So that's bad thinking, right? Like you either have a theory that you can prove or you don't.
Yeah. And then we came out against the assault on American statues, which a lot of liberty people, once again, it's like, whoa, we can decide what statues you want in your community. Bar, bar, bar. So we made some mistakes, but we got a lot of stuff right. Election interference. Never happened.
No,
Never happened.
Can't happen. It's disinformation.
Anyway, on and on. We had some great shows. Tech censorship heats up and Google is sued for antitrust 2 years ago. I mean, we were already like, I remember just doing show after show about tech and thinking, this is maybe getting old, but I don't know. Nobody was getting it.
This Jordan Peterson personality test was fun. I'm going to go back to that one because that was like, we both took that test.
Right.
That was really interesting. I wish if we had sort of a quote unquote healthier culture, I would be much more into doing stuff like this that's fun and interesting and insightful about just living a good life rather than constantly fighting against this fascism that we're facing.
Yeah, well, that's a good point. Maybe someday in the future. I think that's all I'll do on review, but what do we got here? Stand Up to Tyranny by Joining Together. Private companies can be evil too. That's ooh, duh.
Really? You think?
We got some good shows. The Global Threat: a virus or the rulers? Is it time for Gen X to take over? I've had this like kind of love for Gen X as a Gen Xer, but I started listening to this guy who does YouTube videos called Academic Agent. And he really works, he works with these running understandings of the generations as a worldview. And I learned some things about Gen X that are kind of not very good that I think are true. Definitely there's a cynicism in our generation that causes us to not be very active. We tend toward giving up and being kind of cynical, and we tend to not be good valuers, to be honest. And I think it's because our parents were boomers. So when you're raised by hippies, you kind of end up being sort of cynical and like everything's ridiculous. Right?
Yeah.
Because they were ridiculous.
Yeah.
And they didn't raise us with values.
Right.
So,
they have no values. It's whatever you want.
So we have no values and we're cynical. I think that's true. And I think I tend toward that in some ways. I mean, obviously I've evolved, but definitely in my 20s. Yeah. Anyway.
Well, it's sad that podcasts, unlike maybe books or texts or writing, no one's going to go back and listen to a podcast. It's very hard to do that. It takes time. You're not going to go back 3 years ago and listen to a podcast that was an hour, 2 hours long. So that's kind of the sad aspect of podcasting is it's such a now thing. And it's almost like, I don't know how many other things are like that just kind of die the moment you consume it.
Well, it's like a newspaper. It's journalism. It's journalism today. Here's the comedy videos though. And I mean, you can go back and watch these. And they are still funny. Some of them, some of them were very current issue-ish. And so if you don't know what was going on at the time, it's very difficult to.
The American Journalist one is still my favorite, I think.
Yeah, this one here.
So good. That was so well done.
Thank you. It was such a good idea. I don't know if I don't think I'm sharing my sound.
Mon nom est Kelly.
A terrorist bombing had just occurred in Boston Marathon. By the way, what happened to our weekly terrorist bombing? What happened to that? It doesn't happen anymore. Anyway, some Muslim kids bombed the marathon, or so we were told, because I don't believe anything anymore.
Yeah, I don't believe that.
And the government the news was trying so hard to blame it on the Tea Party. And this is me playing a disappointed journalist because it's a Muslim again.
Mais je ne sens pas sa chaleur.
It's so great. You captured
La
the French
dépression.
cinema
Et l'apathie, m'ont
listlessness.
étant depuis que la terroriste de Boston ont été découverts comme étant musulmans et non membres de la Tea Party. Comment est-ce possible? L'islam est, après tout, la religion de la
Islam
paix.
is the religion of peace. How could it happen? I love this part where I'm
Yeah, this is great.
Painting
Chaque fois
the
qu'il y a un
sad face.
attentat, je
Every
garde
time there's a
espoir
mass
que nous
attack,
pourrons
I keep hoping we
tripoter
can
la
pin it on the
Tea
Tea Party.
Mais en vain.
This is like your masterpiece.
Également cette semaine, la loi sur le contrôle des armes en fer a été bloquée.
They're still the same. They're still trying to block guns and just, common sense gun
Il
control.
était question d'une loi de bon sens, voulue par 90% de la population américaine. Non, pas ce genre de bon sens. Là.
You just kind of look
J'ai
confused.
battu ma joie de vivre.
That's
Comment puis-je
beautiful.
faire
That's
un
really
autre
pretty.
reportage sur le
What is?
terroriste musulman?
This picture of you, it's
Oh,
just
this
beautiful.
frame.
And then you do this. Yeah.
Merde. Est-ce que la vie est
Is
vraiment
life like a
comme
game
un
of
jeu de
Jenga played by
Jenga
yourself?
que je joue seul? Est-ce que les catastrophes sont inévitables? Et ensuite, les islamistes commencent-ils une guerre contre la femme?
Oh my God, that was
great.
so funny. So funny. And then I was looking at these Sunny TV Newses that I did for a while. And
Yeah.
those were current issue. And I don't know if you remember this, but actually Daily Caller bought those. So I
Yeah.
was making those for Daily Caller for a while with Tucker. And I had
Yeah.
this like email exchanges with Tucker about them and stuff. And he was so nice. And so they're not here. They're on the Daily Caller. And I went to that website and they're not there. For some reason, they're not loading. I don't know what the deal is with their servers and the old stuff, but they're not really there anymore. And I'll have to dig them up and post them. I have them on a hard drive somewhere. But I really liked this one too. This was my viral one where I was an Obama supporter talking to herself in the future. Do you remember that?
No.
It's November 2008. Barack Obama has just become the first Black American president. I think the future will be so great after 4 years of Obama. I think I'd like to talk to myself in 4 years. That's something I'll do. So, future self, tell me, it must be the greatest time to be alive. I'm so excited, it's like I'm walking on air.
I'm walking everywhere.
my
My car
Obama
was
posters.
repossessed.
I can just imagine how awesome the world will be 4 years from now.
No, you can't.
Well, let's get the personal stuff out of the way.
Anyway, at the end, I hit myself in the face.
Highest
So
unemployment of any
annoyed
group
with
in the world at this point.
We've never been more hated.
But Obama is going to extend the hand of friendship to our enemies.
Yeah,
Following our lead into democracy.
we're kind of following Europe's lead into debt.
But I thought it would be a brave new world.
Yeah, it is starting to resemble that book.
Obama's going to do what he says. He's going to transform America. It's going to be so awesome. What the hell? Was I really as stupid as you 4 years ago? It's no.
Yeah, the only problem with that video is the idea that idiots like that could learn something
right.
from reality.
Here's when I hated Trump before he was elected.
As you know, I'm running for office.
Oh
Tran-
boy.
Make America mine.
You can make America mine. We have to do it. Everything is so messed up. It's so messed up, believe me. I've removed my hat so you can plainly see that this is my hair. I don't understand. I don't know what the controversy is. You, come over here, touch it. Yeah, you, touch it. Come on, touch it. By the way, you know what I'll be great at? People don't think, but the military. I'll be great at the military. I love the military. You know why? Because they're great people. And also, how else am I going to solidify power? I'm also great at decorating. I will make the White House look fantastic. I throw a great party. My parties will make world leaders know they're in America. There will be gold leafing literally everywhere. I love gold leafing. Lots and lots of gold leafing. America needs so much gold leafing. The White House will be called the Gold House, not the White House, when I'm done. You'll love it. Freedom's great. I love freedom. I love it. But what America needs is a good manager. And I'm a great manager. Ask anybody. If you did a poll about management, I'd beat everybody. Putin is no problem. I know for a fact he has a small penis. I've seen it. By the way, I love the Russians. They're tough, they're killers, and they're beating us. I can beat them because I know these guys. I've seen their penises. Obama is a terrible leader. When they say all black men have big penises, don't you believe it. It's a myth. Well, maybe it's true. But that doesn't mean they have big balls. I'm not saying I've slept with a lot of black men. Maybe I have. But by the way, a black man, a friend of mine, said to me recently, it's too bad that people don't know you better and know how much you respect the black men. And that's true. I have great respect for the black man. Just not the one in office. The one in office is horrible. And we're going to fix that. We're going to fix the black man in office who's horrible. By the way, you will never have to wonder if I have a big penis or not because I don't have one. But if I did, believe me, it would be huge.
Yeah.
That was so good. Wasn't
Awesome.
it?
Yeah.
Oh,
It was great.
So,
Captured the inane narcissism.
yeah, but it's Tramp, so she's kind of slutty.
Of course.
Oh yeah. So anyway, but I don't really know exactly what form it's going to take. I'm really motivated by this kids stuff. Mostly because I have a child and so I'm really aware of it. I'm super aware of the indoctrination going on and she comes home with these Earth Day things and I'm thinking maybe I could do some comedy videos speaking to kids. And recently James Lindsay was saying like we really need a history of communism. And wouldn't it be funny to have some somewhat humorous history of communism videos for kids?
Totally.
So those are things I'm thinking about. And that's kind of where I'm at. Anyway, we're going to just quit the podcast and move on to some other things. And I mean, it doesn't mean that it wouldn't in a year from now, maybe be started up or something, but I'm not even going to suggest it because maybe not. It's been great. It's been almost 6 years. And sometimes you just stop things and move on to the next thing.
If we feel that there are like a million voices crying out, what was the line from Star Wars where when the planet explodes and the Jedi says it feels like a million voices have cried out? If we feel that, maybe we'll start it up again. But we need to feel like hundreds of millions of voices are crying out to us to start it again.
Well, the only thing too, especially like if I'm out there making comedy videos and the fan base picks up and then I do a podcast, that's kind of different. It's like a tack on to the other things that I'm doing. Yeah. I just don't see this as being the primary. And I'm not 100% better. I'm going to be recovering all year. I am well. I'm better than I've ever been in years. And I do anticipate by the end of the year, I should be kind of through the worst of everything for the rest of my life, hopefully until I'm old. Good. And so I'm really interested in doing more things. But I don't have, I don't want to do everything. I think it's too hard when you spread out and try to do too much at once. So I fired myself. I'm canceling the show. And like Tucker,
so you know what you don't want to do.
Bigger and better things.
You know what you don't want to do. That's important.
I think I do want to do this. You have only so much energy and time. And
Right.
when it comes to where should I put it, it's not this. And since my energy is still limited, I'm just going to go start somewhere else. It takes a lot to start something up. And then once it's going, you're in a little bit more of a flow with it. You can add other things. It may be that someday I add a podcast again in the future, but for now, and you've got a podcast and you've got other things going on. So you're already kind of into those other things you want to be doing.
Well, follow. Yeah. If you go to Twitter, because Facebook sucks.
Facebook
and
sucks. I am not
just go
there
to
anymore.
my thing here at the Rat Cap.
At the Rat Cap.
That's where you can follow me and some of the future stuff we're doing. I did have a Rat Cap podcast that I started and stopped after like 15 episodes. I'm probably going to start that up again, but I may just be doing some local stuff for a while. So we save the world.
Yeah,
once we save the world, maybe we can go back and do some other stuff. But follow me there, please. And the more I would love to be doing more. But right now I'm fighting a pretty big battle here locally in my area, and it's kind of consuming me.
Yeah. Follow me at Sunny Lohman on Twitter also. That's really the number one platform I'm on these days. I hate Facebook. Instagram is Facebook. YouTube as well, obviously, at House of Sunny channel. Those
And
are the
Rumble.
two places, you guys. And
You're on Rumble too.
I'm on Rumble. Yeah, at House of Sunny. But my main thing is YouTube. But any videos I make, I'll put them on Rumble. I will. But Rumble sucks. I mean, I got to be honest. Like, it just doesn't have the features and even the player. It doesn't have the features. I don't like watching videos on Rumble, and I don't like posting it as clunky and the whole thing. I don't know. I may even open a TikTok. I'm kind of thinking about that.
Uh-oh.
I want some Chinese money.
You need some Chinese data laundering.
That's right.
You need to capture some Chinese data. So, all right, Treason.
All right, everybody. Hey, well, thanks for joining us all this time. Thanks for being our loyal audience. It's really been fun, and we'll see you out there. Take care, everybody.
It's filled with satire and fun. It's been the demise of bad ideas, and we'll know what's right when she's done. So download this free podcast now and give perspectives you may lack. It's concise and right and achieves world peace, guaranteed all your money back. Last time, ready?